Good. I'm just going to kind of pan between the two on this camera and just have a tighter angle that you can cut to.
Okay.
Rolling.
Last question.
Okay. Should I call you Pastor Hammond, or what
My
can I
name's
call
Keith.
you? Keith. Okay,
Yeah.
Keith. So Keith, I want to ask you, what inspired you to do this film about homelessness and its issues?
In 2013, while I was standing inside my books, I have a bookstore cafe. I'm an author. It's called Books and Tea. I'm an author of books and I'm a tea lover for the last 40 years. So, standing inside my cafe one morning, typically at 6 a.m., this group of homeless guys would come in for warmth, and I would give them free coffee and rolls, and they would sit there, and while my other customers were coming in, they would sit over in the corner and take out these pieces of cardboard that they had cut out, and they would literally, whatever was on their heart that day, they would take a black marker and write down, and then leave the store, go 2-3 blocks away on the highway and hold up a sign for whatever they needed, and that whatever was on their heart that day. But that was how they actually ate that day. One day, a guy came in who I think was sort of I don't know if he was the go-to guy for this group of guys. And he had she had to be about 7 years old, a child with him. And it tugged at my heart so much that I said, you know what, that guy's story needs to be told. And that's where that's where the lead character, James, comes from. His story is really the movie.
And in James' particular situation with the child, was there a death in the family? Was it a combination of a perfect storm? How he ended up homeless? Because not everybody is a vet. Not everyone is mentally unset. You know what I mean? There's all these prejudices about the homeless, when in fact it could be you or I.
James's story is not really unlike many others. When he was 10 years old, his mom passed away. His dad was already in the war, and they couldn't reach him. So mom passes away, James goes into foster care. He stays in foster care up until he's 18, 19 years old, and then branches out on his own. Well, while he's in high school, latter part of high school, 16, 17 years old, he gets this incredible job with a uniform, name on his shirt, the whole nine, and it gives him hope. And from there, he meets a girl in foster care, they meet, marry, and have 2 kids. From there, his life starts. 10 years go by, he's never missed a payment, he's got a new mortgage, they have a nice, family, they're living the American dream.
Yeah.
And from that point on, we come to 2008, 2009, where the economic crisis literally shows up at his door. And from that point on, his life starts to spiral downhill. Because with a mortgage that was at that point $1,600 a month, in September, he gets a bill for 3 times that.
Right, because it was all those crap.
It triples.
Yeah, there was balloons.
And as a result of that, he can't afford it. So he keeps paying what his normal mortgage is. And that goes on for months and months and months. And he never receives any notices to the contrary that it's going to be, to his detriment. And they quietly foreclose on his home. And the sheriff shows up out of the blue one day and tells him, you've got 24 hours to vacate.
Is that crazy?
It
should
crazy.
Be illegal.
Well, it should be.
It should be.
And
illegal.
so from there,
so
he
and his wife stay together, or?
Well, and that's where it gets. His wife becomes livid. She's livid. Gail's livid at that point because she is literally, okay, what do we do now? We just left a situation where we were both in foster care. We had no stability. We built this life together, and now you're going to tell me I'm homeless and my kids are homeless. She is livid. Gail, his wife, lost her mom and dad which is how she ended up in foster care, in a fire. Her mom and dad succumbed to a fire. And she ends up in foster care.
And there wasn't any insurance or?
Nothing.
Wow.
So as a result, the 2 of them meet, start their life together, and have kids. And from that point on, they come to this point, 2008, 2009, and here's the mortgage crisis and the whole country is collapsing.
And they would come into your shop?
He would. James would, yeah. And one day he brought the youngest child with him, and I just could not understand for the life of me Apparently, the youngest child was ill that day, but he had taken the oldest child to school, so I never got the chance to meet the oldest child. But for that
But at
one
least
day,
he kept them in school.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, he was doing great.
Considering he was living in shelters at this point, or
No, he was living in a hotel.
Okay.
Because he has a great job making, I think, $23, $24 an hour. But now, at that point, he's in foreclosure living in a hotel, so savings are being depleted rapidly because they're paying hotel bill, and now because of the foreclosure and the late payments, his credit is screwed.
Right.
So what do? He gets a phone call at work one day saying, sorry, we can't give you the apartment. And that's where the story really takes over for me.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's an incredible
It's almost
story.
like a catch-22.
It is, yeah.
And it's our system, and all
It
those
is our
really
system.
illegal
Yeah.
mortgages that were,
Right.
yeah, those guys.
So the backstory,
Wow.
okay? The backstory. Now remember, his dad was in the war, okay? So there's this homeless guy who sits outside of James's job every day with a sign that says, I don't need money, I need answers. He came home from the war unable to find his wife because she had passed, James's mother, and James, who was at that point in foster care. So he comes home from the war and his house is gone by foreclosure because somebody took it. He couldn't get any answers.
He's homeless.
And sitting right outside of the building where James works, because adjacent to that building is where the mortgage company used to be.
Which is often what happens.
That's pretty typical. So as a result, the backstory brings James Sr. and James Jr. back together. The first half, I titled the movie a documentary, but it's really a docudrama for the first 3/4 of it, and the last quarter of it is really documentary, because the last quarter we go out, I send field reporters out into the field to talk to directors, executive directors of homeless shelters, and everybody out there who has anything to do with touching homeless at any point in their existence during their daily activity, to find out exactly what we can do to help better.
Well, we have to redesign the system.
The system needs to be redesigned.
We need to
Correct.
redesign the system.
Yeah.
And I think that, like foster care of children, we should also have it that a state, city, community, civically, a community steps up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really important to chip in. And if you can open up space, and if you can be generous with employment, and there should be a forgiving of some of those upside down mortgage. I know that I think it's called HARP program, but it's almost too little too late in some ways.
And that's how James actually gets out of his situation. This homeless guy that happens to be sitting outside his job every single day, it just happens to be his dad, he finds that out at the end, gives him this worn and tattered card that he found on the ground one day. And this card couldn't help him because he's a veteran.
Right.
So James Jr. takes this card and he goes to this church, which leads him to this homeless panel discussion where he meets Bob, who's a retired banker, who blows the lid off this thing, and reporters start scrambling, and because half the people that are sitting in the audience that day, probably 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 are going through the exact same thing.
And there's empty houses all around
Empty houses
like where people overdeveloped, that are just going rotten, that you could actually place families in them.
Absolutely.
And we should do a system where you have to be honest, but you have your tax returns, and whatever you can pay, it should be done on a scale.
Right.
So at least they're in homes and they're off the street. Because I know there are a lot of empty houses in America.
There are tons. So James ends up going to this church, to this crisis center, and he meets Mary.
Right.
So Mary connects James with this landlord, and Danny comes in. Danny's an over-the-road trucker, and he never lives at home. So Danny says, you know what, my life is taking in a different direction. I'm retired, the house is paid for. Let me help you. And that's how James gets out of his situation.
And so he's able to take this man's house?
Danny comes along and gives James his house, rent-free for 6 months, and he says, in 6 months I'll be back. Let's talk about letting you own this, and then you can pay me because it's already paid for. No mortgage company. I'm already on the road. I don't live here.
Right. Why not?
So why not
do that?
Yeah. So he helps James out in that respect.
That's
how he gets. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's
grace.
what we need more of. And that's one of the things that at the end of the movie, in the documentary portion, you'll see we actually go out and ask those tough questions to people who are in those positions. Landlords, for example. you've got an empty house, or you've got an empty room in your house or building, how can we work together as a team and build a team around a family or an individual to get them off the street?
And I think nothing feels better than to help and reach out and help your neighbor.
That's right.
And
it's called posterity.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
incredible.
it fulfills your, it fulfills a need, which we all have a need. We all, in some ways, are intrinsically homeless.
We are, correct.
And some of us have just, you know, whatever we have is borrowed
levels,
for a while.
right? It's just different levels. Some of it gets to the point to where it's so egregious that you are out there on the streets, and then some of it gets to the place to where you're just living paycheck to paycheck. And see, from my own story, which is why this James's story touches me so much, is because I lost my mom when I was 9, and then it took me 3 years or so to get my strength back up to, you know, to even stop grieving. And then
did she die, or was she?
Yeah, she passed away of lung cancer. And then 8 years after my mom, 3 years after I finally got my strength back, my dad passes. He goes to a clinic visit one day, 3 days before Thanksgiving, and never makes it home again. They admit him and he never makes it out.
And did he die of lung cancer?
He died of lung failure. He worked in the morgue a long time ago, and probably
he was probably asbestos.
Embalming fluid.
And
or whatever
asbestos, probably.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Yeah.
So at that point, here it is, I'm 17 years old, and I'm living on the south side of Chicago. All my siblings are grown, gone, got their own families, or away at college. And you know, for the last 2 years of my dad's life, he was on oxygen literally every day, and I was there caring for him. So my dad is gone. I'm 17 years old, and now I have a decision to make. What do I do?
Did you go into the military?
No, I went homeless.
Oh, you were homeless?
Yeah, for about a year and a half.
You didn't want to join the military? Or
Well, I was working 2 jobs. I was working, my day job was at Continental Bank, Monday through Friday, and actually my pastor worked there as well. And my weekend job, I was working in the toy department at Marshall Fields. So I had money. But at 17 years old, nobody tells you, you know, you could go live in a hotel or go find an apartment.
Roommates. But they didn't have Craigslist then.
Well, not only that, at 17 years old, I didn't qualify to even get an apartment. I was too young.
I really appreciate
Here's the
that.
catch-22 though. At 17, you don't even qualify to get a bed in a shelter.
Right. And you know, the thing about homelessness that I really think is important for people to know, and I know that when I pull up, if I see someone, I will give what I can, and even if it means just smiling and, you know, because just showing respect. Because I always think it's God. I think that within, you know, you never know who your angel's going to be.
Right, but the one thing that I think this story will open a lot of eyes to is the fact that most of the signs that you pass by just in your daily routine aren't asking for money.
Right. Yeah, they're asking for work.
They're asking for work,
or a place to live.
Yeah, or answers to how they got into their situation. So for after a year and a half of sleeping on the park benches in Grant Park in Chicago and finding a space where I could, I finally went out and rented a room. There was another homeless guy who actually came back to the park and was just sitting there one day reflecting on where he had been and where he was at that moment. And he had finally earned enough money to get him a room, so he told me, you know, there's this rooming house on the south side, and you can actually go there. You're working, so she would accept you. And that's exactly what I did.
Perfect.
And, oh yeah, it was incredible.
And that was your leg up.
That was my leg up.
Nice. And you've never looked back?
Never looked back.
And it's so nice that you're so generous.
Yeah, and it's been, you know, it's been a journey. Going through that kind of process changes you. It really changes you. It gives you a level of compassion that I don't think most people have if they haven't been there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think also this is one of the gifts of being a person of color, that we know what it's like to be maligned and to get paid less and to be treated poorly.
Sure.
And so that is one of the benefits of being a person of color in America.
Absolutely.
Is that we should have compassion for our fellow
human
beings. Something's missing because God knows it isn't easy.
Absolutely.
But I have one other question. What would the landscape, what would America look like if we did care about our neighbors? You know that saying, do unto others?
I think they would call us Canadians.
The thing is that I like about the Norwegian way, let's just say,
Sure.
is that everybody, you have to obviously be conscious of the community.
Yes.
I do believe you have to do community service.
Yes.
It's
mandatory,
mandatory,
right.
which I think everyone should be forced to do, all of
Correct.
us.
Yes.
You have to do community service, and your taxes are high, but other expenses are non-existent. Like you have doctor care, you have child care, you have long labor breaks. I mean, there's some really amazing good things that they do as a culture that promote family and promote community and family.
It promotes compassion.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's an incredible.
That's going to become. That's
an
the next
incredible
thing.
Foundation.
That's
yeah.
the next resource that we
How do we
need
teach
to mine.
that? Now,
Well,
let's reverse it and let me ask the questions.
Okay.
How do we teach that? Because you're from Canada. You were
I
born
am Canadian.
in
Yes,
Edmonton.
Yes, I am. I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
How do you teach compassion? I think, like you said, being at the bottom, having hardship, and being not bitter by the hardship, but actually quickened by it, makes for compassion.
Using it as a platform.
And also, I think one thing about money, which I've noticed, is that it never has made me happy, and when it's been no issue, I feel my best and my happiest when I know everyone around me is doing well.
It's doing well. Yeah.
If I'm the only one holding all the chips, I've noticed that it's isolating. You know, and I've been on airplanes, jets, private jets by myself. It's like, I want friends,
Absolutely.
you know, or, you know, whatever. I'm just saying, I just think that it's more fun to
be able to share
be
it.
a community.
To
I
be
would
able to share
rather
that.
be with you
Yeah.
or with my friends
Sure.
and my family or with my whoever it is than to just be on my own in a giant mansion. Like, I've never really understood that. So compassion comes, and also the human condition. I have faith. I have natural faith that we're good, no matter how confused we get.
Oh, sure.
I think that people are good, and you can
At our core, yes.
you can turn someone who's lost
Right.
around
Yeah.
by just looking at them with respect.
Right, rather than
Fear
judgment.
and judgment.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I often think that, knock on wood, that I have survived potential issues by looking at someone and thinking how much I love them.
Absolutely.
And
That's
and
incredible.
I've seen them melt, and maybe they weren't going to do something nice. You know what I mean? Because I look and say, wow,
Right.
you're a human being.
So thank you. It's been incredible. We are behind the scenes on the set of the movie Street Signs. Hopefully it will come out this summer, 2015, and we are thankful and grateful that Radon Chong, by way of Edmonton, Canada,
Yes.
flew in from LA to be with us today.
It was a joy for me to do your words. It was
It's
well
an
written.
absolute pleasure for us to be having you as a part of
Thank
this
you.
movie. We appreciate it. We're thankful to you, and thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And we get to go have lunch.
Yeah, we do. And cut.
Cutting.
Yeah.
Great. That was good.
That was great.
I think it was wonderful.
Oh yeah. Good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Rolling and set.
Setting at the tippy, and here we go. Wow, the homeless man that James kept ignoring ended up holding the card to his breakthrough. What do you do when you meet someone holding a sign asking for help? First, ask what kind of help they need. If you can help, help. If you can refer, refer. And if you can feed them for that moment, just feed them for that moment. I'm Radon Chong, and I'm here to talk to you about a few ways that you can get involved in someone's life to help them find a place to live. More and more, families with children have become at risk of losing their homes, ending up in shelters, when so many others have the ability to help. Will you be the one that will help? Imagine if that person who needs help is you. Could you ever see yourself outside, on the street, holding a sign, asking for help? If you can imagine it, would you want someone to help you? Would you want someone to see your need and help meet it? Would you want someone to just stop what they're doing, take time out from their busy day, stop driving or walking past you and maybe even your children, and have it in their heart to help? Would you want that kind of help? I think we can all agree that we would. So, will you... Stop. Yes, thank you. Let me just do it from there. Would you want that kind of help? I think we can all agree that we would. So will you be the one who steps up and gives that kind of help? Before you answer that, let's go back to the movie and see what James and some of the others being affected by this crisis do next.
And cut.
Okay.
Are you happy?
I am. Very.